My Lord, Justice Simon Byabakama, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Patrick, and good evening, viewers.
There's an appeal at the Supreme Court that could potentially uphold Parliament's amendment of the Constitution for elections to happen in 2023. However, you have issued a roadmap. Are you preparing for 2021? Do you already know the court's verdict?
Thank you very much, Patrick. First of all, in any given activity, you must operate within the current or the existing legal framework. Now, the existing legal framework provides that the term of office of the present government elapses or ends in 2021. So it's on that basis that we made our preparations and the roadmap thereto.
So you cannot also make any preparation on the basis that there's also still a pending court case and things can go either way? Because if it does, then you can run around, with all respect, like a headless chicken.
That would be speculative. And in law, you don't have to speculate. If it so turns out that the Supreme Court pronounces otherwise, then we shall go back to the drawing board. It's simple.
Ugandans seem to be very apathetic towards elections, and many don't turn up, but even those who turn up usually don't doubt their votes count. Why do you think this is the case in our country?
Well, that is really a matter that the people who don't turn up are best placed to respond to. But what I can say is that following the 2015-2016 general elections, we carried out an evaluation of the entire exercise across the country by engaging with various stakeholders, getting their views on what they felt was or was not right or correct in the 2016 general elections. And out of that, we formed the basis of planning to make the following, the next general elections.
My Lord Justice Byabakama, you cannot say that when people have apathy and they don't turn up for an election, and you say that's entirely for those who have not come up. You, as the manager of the election, I think it's your concern to understand why people sometimes are apprehensive.
Whereas it is everyone's right to vote, but it's a question of choice for you to go and vote. It's not mandatory, it's not coercive, that you should leave your home, go to a polling station and cast your vote. However, as a citizen, it's your civic duty and right to go and vote.
So if you organize an election, and yes, there's your choice to come and participate in the election, and people don't turn up, you still say that's their shawuri, right?
Well, two things.
Because that's what exactly you're telling me now.
There are so many factors. First of all, as I've said, one has a right to choose whether to go and participate in elections or not. That is one. And secondly, remember, these are voters. The candidates are required in the course of propagating their message to the voters to mobilize them, the parties and the candidates. It is their duty to mobilize the voters to come out and participate in these processes and give them votes. And secondly, it is also the interest of the Electoral Commission that all the efforts, all the preparations, all the expenses we have incurred in preparing this national exercise should not turn out to be a farce. It should be well attended, should be well responded to, and should be embraced by all citizens, by all voters. So, if we realize that there's a low voter turn-up, we ask ourselves, why was that?
So, now, that is the answer, sir,
yes,
I've been waiting for. It concerns you.
Yeah, but it also concerns the voters. What prevented you from coming to vote? Remember, I have said, it is not mandatory that you should go out and vote. You should exercise your right of...
Because many times, Justice Byabakama, the voters have felt that their vote does not count. But let me go to the roadmap, because you have issued a roadmap 2021. And I want to look into the budget, which jumped from about 500 billion to almost 900 billion. That's closer to 1 trillion Uganda shillings. Justice Byabakama, this is more than 400 billion more extra. Have the constituencies also doubled for you to double the price?
Yes. Well, I don't want to say they have doubled.
They almost doubled, sir.
One, there has been an increase in population, particularly in the people eligible to vote. In 2015-2016, the register was about 15.4 million voters. In the 2020-21 elections, we anticipate the register to grow to 19.4 million voters. Secondly, we have had an increment in the number of constituencies. We have had new districts added on since 2016. We have had new municipalities coming on board, and all those are parliamentary constituencies. We have had new sub-counties. We have had new, so many.
So all these additions, do they make the justification for an increment of over 400 billion?
And so many other factors, because remember that with every increment in one area, there is a chain reaction. There's a chain reaction of other factors attendant to the services to be provided in these additional electoral areas. And not only that, look at the cost of living. Is the cost of living today the same as it was in 2015, in 2016? The cost of fuel, for example, is it the same? So there are so many cost drivers, Patrick, that I'm trying to point it out, which make it imperative that you must have an incremental in the budget. If you look at the elections since this country started having elections,
to many analysts, an incremental is justified, yes, but an increment of that magnitude, yes, is questionable.
Now, if you want, you can come to our offices. We shall give you the breakdown that leads to this amount of money. We shall give you the breakdown, because whatever we do transparently. But I want to assure you that before we pass this budget and before we roll out the roadmap, we critically examined all the factors that pertain to the budget. And even the Minister of Finance was involved, by the way, because remember, they were the ones managing the past, the national past. They were also involved in ensuring that this budget was not wasteful, that this budget was spot on, and this budget was just specific.
As the manager of the electoral process in Uganda, do you see the need for electoral reforms for you to be able to give Ugandans credible elections?
Well, you see, the Electoral Commission conducts elections on behalf of the people of Uganda. And it is the people of Uganda who feel the need that we want electoral reforms in these areas. Now, the Electoral Commission is an end user of the laws which have been passed in the parliament down to the people of Uganda. And our understanding is that the electoral laws reflect the aspirations and expectations of the people of Uganda. So really, if the people of Uganda say we need electoral laws in that regard.
You are, as well as an end user and a manager of the electoral process,
yes,
do you see the need of the reforms?
Well, one, we ourselves as the Electoral Commission, we have also made proposals of electoral reforms in certain areas on our own analysis. Now, the people have also come up and said, we need reforms also in this. Yes, there is need for electoral reforms as stated by the people and as stated by ourselves. But in the main, the point I'm trying to make is this, that the Electoral Commission acts on the basis of the available laws that are handed down by Parliament.
Yes, granted, Justice Yabakama, granted you have to follow the law. Yeah. And I'm asking that what is available to you now,
yes,
does it make the work better for you to give us the good results that we Ugandans deserve? Because there was actually a recommendation following a presidential petition in 2016 that gave recommendations of some of these reforms. In fact, those recommendations are some kind of an order. You understand this better.
First of all, look at it this way, Patrick. You are the managers of elections, and your activities and programs must be premised on the existing legal framework, all right? And you try your level best to make sure you get a proper product out of the existing framework. Now, if the necessary or required electoral reforms have not yet come into place, are you going to say we cannot try our best to hold a credible, free and fair election in the circumstances? No.
What I'm asking the Electoral Commission chairperson is whether he also thinks he's working within an environment where the reforms are needed but they're not there, and that is making his job very difficult.
I'm working within the prevailing circumstances of the legal framework, and my determination is to ensure that we deliver a credible, free and fair election.
Well knowing that the existing legal framework is not giving you the best option.
If I may use one example, I don't know whether it is appropriate. I remember in the early 80s when I was still a young state attorney in Fort Portal, and I used to commute from Fort Portal to Masinda and Hoima to prosecute cases. There was only one bus plying that route from
Kasamba bus.
Thank you very much. Kasamba bus services. Only one. Old, and in most cases it would break down on the way. I remember one graphic instance where the tank boy would keep on putting water in the radiator because it would overheat and so on. At times it would break down. You first repair it, then you move. You know, in those circumstances, that was the only vehicle available. You had to travel with it despite the risks, despite the challenges.
You know the beauty of that story.
So yes,
the beauty of that story that the Kasamba bus service was an indigenous Munyoro doing business in Munyoro. He reached a level even providing a bus.
Yes.
But today,
yes,
you can look around and struggle to find whether the Munyoro who are still doing that kind of business connecting Fort Portal and Munyoro.
But there is improvement now.
Never.
There is improvement now in the bus services in the country. The bus services
yes,
across
but some
the
of the people have hijacked
but the point I'm trying to make, Patrick,
yes,
is this: that when you are faced with an environment, the question is, should I not travel because this bus is likely to break down or not? Or should I travel with all the attendant risks, knowing that eventually I will arrive? So we are saying
so that you know that you are using a vehicle, the Electoral Commission, without laws, that maybe could be risky, but you are taking the risk.
No, not risky. I'm saying in view of the proposals that there should be reform in the laws, which we have also alluded to, which we have also contributed to. We are saying, but even without those reforms in place as of now, much as they have been desirable to be in place by now, we cannot wait to implement and roll out the roadmap and plan and start the planning processes and implementation processes simply because the necessary reforms are not yet in place. But we should make a good job out of the current environment and circumstances.
My Lord Justice Yabakama, you mentioned it in your roadmap that by March, at least the laws should be in place.
By Feb.
Yeah, okay. We are late by 1 month now.
Yes.
So you can see
yes,
that you are actually going to take us on a ride on a dangerous mechanical condition kind of vehicle that you understand, and you have demanded for it to be fixed. They haven't. They are 1 month behind. So that is a big concern. Well, but let me pick up one thing here in the process. Don't we need a proper law to regulate the use of technology in the election process? Things like biometric. I'm saying this because we do not own the technology. Somebody can give us the technology, but then provide a back door through which he can influence the results.
Yeah, certainly, and I think that was one of the recommendations of the Supreme Court, that the use of technology should be legalized or included in legal reform. But as I've said, wait a minute, Patrick, whose duty is it to make these reforms or put these reforms in place? It's not the duty of the Electoral Commission. Now, you, Electoral Commission, what are you going to do in the circumstances? Are you going to say, simply because these reforms or improvements are not in place and therefore I can do nothing? Look, we have been conducting several by-elections since we came into office. We have been conducting those by-elections on the basis of the prevailing legal framework. And out of the number of by-elections we've held so far, if I'm not mistaken, I think only 3 people have gone to, only 3 have been challenged in the courts of law. What does that tell you? It tells you that despite the stated gaps and the shortcomings in the current electoral laws, the Electoral Commission, properly exercising its mandate, committed to deliver a credible, free and fair election, can still deliver a very wonderful product. So it's not it's not basically the existence of laws per se. It is how these laws are applied, who is applying them, and what commitment does that person have in applying these laws.
But really, I don't want even to come to your legal altar because I could get lost there. But really, you know that the recommendations of the Supreme Court are not just recommendations. These are also orders.
I agreed, Patrick. But the question I'm asking you, for example, if in your home, okay, if to prepare you a wonderful dish, your maid or tells you, we need this, we need this, we need this, but you don't provide them, will the maid still not go ahead to prepare a meal simply because you have not provided the ingredients she asked for? Does she? So you sleep hungry because you did not provide this, that?
So you are going to improvise. So
there.
You are going to improvise.
We are not going to improvise.
Yes, you are going to use whatever you have, even though it's not the best.
But then that's not improvisation. That's not improvisation. It is within the law. Whatever is within the law is not improvised. It is specifically stated and provided for.
How do you ensure that there's explicit prohibition of the involvement of public officials in these partisan political processes? I talk about this because I've seen the military, I've seen the police, and you are the manager of our election. How do you ensure they don't get involved?
But the law is very clear. The Political Parties and Organizations Act specifically prohibits public servants, members of the security forces, from participating in partisan politics. And anyone who acts contrary to that provision commits a criminal offense and is liable on conviction to penalties which are specified within the law. So the question is, how does the law become applicable when the citizens, when the people who observe these commissions or omissions do not actualize the law, do not put the law in motion? If you have a thief on your village and every day is breaking people's houses, even you get him, you don't report him, what do you expect the law enforcement agencies to do? The citizens should take responsibility. And that's why in this roadmap, one of the main activities we are laying emphasis on is stakeholder engagement, engaging with the citizens. We want to tell the people of Uganda, 1, you must own these processes of elections. 2, you must say no to any person who wants to discredit our democratic involvement and development and credentials of holding free and fair elections. The people must get involved. The Electoral Commission is not in every village and every household where soap and salt and everything are distributed by candidates. The citizens must come up, but they must be sensitized to know their rights and to say no. Because, for example, we have been telling the people, look at bribery, which is one of the main evils that we have to contend with currently. The law says that if a petitioner proves the satisfaction of court that Patrick Kamara, the victor in the elections, bribed voters or a voter with any amount over 2,000 shillings or whatever it is, then that is enough ground to cancel or to annul the outcome. The cost of a by-election is minimum 350 million. If you come to a district which is a bigger constituency, it's in the range of 500, 700 million. We want to engage the citizens and point out to them that some of these things, innocuous as they may look, but they have debilitating effects.
So what are you suggesting, that we can do away with the integrity because we want to save money?
No.
Yeah, because you're giving me that the cost can be so much, even though somebody has done an election using 2,000.
No.
If it's an issue of integrity, there's no enough money in the world to buy integrity.
No, the point I'm making,
or to sell it.
The point I'm making is this. We want every citizen of this country to become an active partner in the process of ensuring we have credible, free and fair elections.
My Lord Justice,
by
let me get this with clarity, because you have given an example of somebody who could bribe using 2,000 shillings.
Yes.
And yes, an election can be annulled.
Yes.
But a by-election can cost about 700 million.
Absolutely.
Are you asking Ugandans to judge that maybe if you are stolen, and yet if the election is going to ask us to put in $1 billion, let the man go with his...
No, what I'm saying, that you see, we are talking of the process of bribery before polling or during polling. All right? And we are saying, how do we prevent this hemorrhage? How do we prevent people from committing offenses or acts that result in cancellation of elections, which are costly to repeat? And we want, who are bribed? Is it goats and sheep and cows? It is the human beings. So if the people say, no, we don't want you to come here. And
when you're talking about bribing, I want also to pick an example, for example, of donations.
Yes.
Would you want donations to continue up to maybe election time, or because the incumbent member of parliament or the incumbent president can use his influence and donations, and that could influence the results on the voters?
No,
where is your stand on the issue of donation during the campaign?
Now, first of all,
because that could be a form of bribery.
Yes. if you look at the roadmaps we set out in the by-elections, because so far my commission has managed by-elections only. We have not yet managed the general elections, but the rules are the same. We always put out a cut-off date. From this period to the time of polling, no donations, no fundraising, no any cash gifts or anything are permitted within that constituency for the period of this electoral exercise. We put a certain period, even for general elections. There is, once the program has been set out and campaigns are due to start and the exercise is ongoing, we say no more fundraising, no more donations. It is again, it is a question of the people choosing to observe the law. The candidates, the political parties observe the law.
How does that apply to the candidate who is at the same time the incumbent?
The incumbent who is at the same. Look, there are two things. In the case of an incumbent president, the question is, when does he cease to act or to be a president of the country? Is it spelled out in the law that once you, an incumbent, you become a candidate, you cease to exercise your powers and functions of the president of the nation? Is it anywhere? It's not anywhere.
So how do you apply? How do you give them a timetable to stop giving donations?
Nevertheless,
if you know it's not applicable, why do you put it in your roadmap?
Nevertheless, we say if you, the incumbent, become a candidate, from this period, you are also bound by the rules and regulations governing these elections. No more donations, no more fundraising, no more contributions, no more nothing. It is very clear. The laws governing candidates in an election apply across the board. However, the law permits that incumbent to retain some of the facilities of the presidency or incumbency.
Like they say, the devil is in the detail.
Nah. There you go.
So, state-owned media.
Yes.
Again, it can be a form of influencing because we have witnessed an equal use of state-owned media during the campaigns. How would you intend to deal with that so that no individual organ locks out somebody who could be from the opposition?
Well, first of all, again, it is a question of the law. What does the law say about that aspect? And I think if you look at Section 24, for instance, of the Presidential Elections Act, it says that all presidential candidates shall be given equal treatment on the state-owned media to present their programs to the people. So the law is very clear. State-owned. State-owned what? Media.
I
but for private media, the law is decided to that one.
State-owned. Yeah.
State-owned, yes,
I'm
it's very clear.
State-owned.
Yeah, it's very clear.
But you know that has not been the case.
Yes.
You know the norm.
Yes.
Is that the opposition have not been given equal time like those, for example, in the NRM, when it comes state-owned media.
Have you taken time to interrogate the state-owned media, why they have not been doing that? Have you taken time to do that? Because probably they have the right answers. And secondly, what
you even expect the right answer after reading me the law. What right answer do you expect?
Well,
what right answer do you expect?
Because look, the law imposes an obligation.
Then you know that sometimes they can be in our law books and they're not going to be followed. Yeah, because when it is clearly stated like you have just read it, and then you're asking me, could be another reason?
Yeah, but you see,
there should be no other reason apart from what you've just said.
The point,
and I'm asking if that is going to frustrate you as a manager of our electoral process if the laws are not going to be adhered to.
Now, one of the undertakings that we are making in the implementation of the roadmap, as I said, is stakeholder engagement. One of the major stakeholders are the media. We started a round of visitation to the media. I think we started with the NTV here. We've gone around other media houses and so on. Now, we want to co-opt the media in the quest for a free and fair election, according ample time, equal time to all the candidates as required by the law. Because some of these things, although they are stated in the law, I think engaging with one another, highlighting the need for all of us to observe the law, to be free, to ensure that we have a conducive atmosphere where all candidates feel that they have been afforded an opportunity to present their views to the voters. I think that's what we're working on. But again, Patrick, it is a question of choice. Look, we have all these laws in our books against murder, against defilement, against rape, against so on and so on. But look, the prisons are full. It is a question of choice. The people choose to break the law deliberately and intentionally. But if we decide as a country, as citizens, as stakeholders, as political actors, that we are going to observe the law, I can assure you we can have a very peaceful, very wonderful election.
Yeah, but if the people who are supposed to be at the top of the managing the affairs of the country are also the same people involved in the breaking of the law, that should scare you more.
Sure, but what are we doing about it? When you have a problem in your village, what do? If a neighbor is under attack or something like that, what do? You make an alarm. You make an alarm. I want to believe if the people of Uganda rise up and start talking against some of these things, we shall see them reducing. If we start talking against bribery of voters, if we start talking against unequal treatment and so on and so forth, we shall have a reduction in some of these instances.
But you know, people of Uganda cannot coalesce together, they cannot assemble.
Who says? Who says? Do you remember, you know what, for me now, I no longer believe what some of the pundits say about the people of Uganda. You remember in the LOC1 elections, the pundits came out and said, these LOC1 elections, people are not going to participate. This is a cake method. It is an offensive to the right of one's choice and so on. How can I be seen that I'm supporting this candidate and so on? It will not take place. It will flop and so on. Do you know what? The people of Uganda gave them a resounding no, and they participated in the droves in those elections. So even now, you cannot say offhand, Patrick, that people of Uganda cannot be
One party deployed more money than the Electoral Commission, a political party, in that election, because they had some interest.
That's the
and no wonder.
That's the statement of fact which is unknown to you. Me, I don't know about that. I don't know about that one party deployed more money than the Electoral Commission. But for us, we had the money which we required in those elections, and we did our work to the best of our satisfaction.
But you know, in some cases, for example, the NRM party has more areas to deal with than the Electoral Commission itself.
Yeah, but no. How? Because
yes,
you see,
the parishes and all these party officials they have to elect, they go deeper than you do.
I don't know their structure really. I must confess, I don't know their structure.
Well, I want to know more when it comes to issues of a contested election, especially petitions. I want to know your stand on the need to increase maybe time within which one can, the presidential candidate can petition court in case of the results if he doesn't agree with them, because the time really given seems to be very short.
And I think that was the subject of the recent amendments to the Constitution, where the time was now, I think the time was extended or improved or increased to, is it about 15 days or something like that? Previously it was 10 days. I agree. If you are a petitioner in the presidential election, you have to gather evidence from across the country. You need reasonably ample time to enable you to do that, because some of this evidence you have to go to a particular polling station or a particular area where the alleged omission or commission occurred. So I agree with you, and I think some improvement has been made in that regard.
My Lord Justice Simon Yawakama, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll also be asking how about to amend the laws so that even the Attorney General can be answerable in court election petitions, you know, using the doctrine of perpetual succession. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Justice Simon Byabakama, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, and we're discussing the roadmap for 2021. I wanted to know any specific plans to ensure that this time around the procurement of the electoral materials will happen without any issue of corruption, because in the past, corruption will always raise its ugly head into the procurement processes.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. First of all, procurements are governed by the law under the PPDA Act, Public Procurement and Suppose Act. Now, we have a lot of procurements as election managers. Certainly we do. Ballot papers, IT, and so on and so forth. Now, we endeavor to make sure that the procurements are in accordance with the law. They are conducted by people with integrity, and we put checks and balances to ensure that these corrupt tendencies are avoided. Because you see, once you have such episodes of corruption, then you have people rushing to the PPDA to contest or to challenge the whole process, and that causes delays. And let me tell you, in an electoral cycle, the worst enemy is delay of any process. Once you have a delay in the procurement, you are heading for trouble. So we shall make sure, we shall endeavor to have corrupt-free procurement processes as much as possible.
So you have the money now?
No, not yet. You see,
so when you talk about to make sure there's no delay, and yet you are not in control of the funds now, really, that is not in your control.
No, but you see, an election is not an event; it is a process.
Even though you still,
and this process,
money still has to be disbursed in time.
Absolutely, these processes have different phases of execution. Now, we are now in the process of reorganizing and demarcating electoral areas on the ground across the country. That is phase one. Then next we shall be working on the National Voters Register. Then procurements come in, and even procurements come in phases. For example, you do not expect us to procure ballot papers in 2019. No, you can only do that after nominations have been conducted. So procurements are in phases, really, according to the activity that is at hand.
Shall we have election observers in 2021? I'm saying this because it appears they are unwelcome. Why? Because sometimes they would give recommendations, and these recommendations are ignored. Even the local observers, if you can remember, you had an issue with the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda, CEDU, because you didn't want them to give what they have seen in the public, but only to give them through you. Yet they are observing for us. They're not observing for you, sir.
First of all, Patrick, Uganda is a member of the international community, and we subscribe to good governance and democratic principles. And one of those is to invite observers, or to allow in observers to come and observe your electoral processes. So in 2021, definitely we shall have observers, those who are willing to come and observe. Secondly, on the issue of as you put it, non-implementation of their observation or recommendations, whatever it is, as a basis for as a basis for not appearing to want them to come and observe. I think that's not correct. That's not correct. There are various factors. For example, some of the observations that were made by these observers relate to the area of legislation, okay? And we have said that government undertook to put in place a constitutional review commission to look at some of these issues holistically and make the necessary electoral reforms. Why they have not done that as yet, that's not for me to say. Secondly, any person who wishes to come and observe elections, there is a set process by which you make your intentions known, and we subject you to a scrutiny and to vetting, and then we're in. As for CEDU, we had issues with the CEDU, granted. And it was not because we wanted them to become the mouthpiece of the Electoral Commission, but because CEDU was not complying with the set standards, set guidelines of election observers. There was one particular instance which sparked of this whole thing, where we had held a meeting with them a day before. Then the following day, I think one of them went on media and blasted the women committee elections that are taking place as a sham. You get me? Now, we said, but here we were sitting down with schedule, trying to work out modalities of how we can work together in the execution
so
of their
do you
role.
want the observers to give their observation through you and not independently?
No, but the law is very clear.
Is that what it is?
No, the law says that an observer after the election shall make a written report. That's what it says. You make your observations by way of a written report.
And that written report, I cannot get it? If a media house cannot get it, that written report can only come to you?
I think you have to make a written report and submit it to the Electoral Commission. Because it's the one which accredited you as an observer. We accredited you as an observer. The law says you make your observations in written form to the Electoral Commission. But if you start now going out of the mainstream provision of the law, what do you want us to do?
Are you scared of criticism?
Not at all. Actually, I welcome criticism. I welcome criticism that is positive, objective. I welcome it.
I think we would want to move on because they have since created many constituencies and districts, and some of them it's almost a year back. And one wonders, when are you going to hold elections in those newly created constituencies?
Well, what we have at hand right now are the 6 districts that were operationalized on the 1st of July 2018. I agree, we have not yet held elections in those districts.
Why?
I think we have had challenges of the necessary funds to hold those elections. We brought the matter to the attention of the relevant authority.
You've just been saying here that you're going to work without delays, and I've been telling you from the beginning that you can have your roadmap. Nice roadmap, but if the money is not there, the delays are going to come, and they're going to affect even the procurement process, because that has been happening. Because some areas are not entirely in your control.
I agree entirely, and we are saying that we hope, all factors being equal, for the 2021 general elections, we have been given assurance that the relevant funds will be availed in time, in that phased manner. Now, for the 6 districts, as I've said, we have not yet secured the funds. We hope, and we have been promised, that those funds probably will be availed at the appropriate time. But in the meantime, the Electoral Commission can't do much, really.
Give us, one of your job is also to do voter education.
Yeah.
And here you have started with the roadmap, and we're wondering, the politicians are already in the field. They have begun almost campaigning. We have seen the NRM have picked their sole candidate. We have seen DP saying, Mao is saying, I'm coming. We have seen the People Power, the Honorable Chagulanyi saying, I'm coming, I'll be on the ballot. The politicians are in the field. Where is the voter education of Justice Simon Byabakama?
I think the politicians are in the field expressing their intentions,
yes,
but they are not carrying out official campaigns in the context of the Electoral Commission roadmap. Because the roadmap of
there
the
are some people who never even cease to campaign. Because there are those who don't cease to campaign.
Yeah, but no.
Immediately after swearing in, the campaign continues. It is always happening.
Yes, their prerogative. I think if you are a representative of the people, I think you have the right to get in touch with your constituencies. Otherwise, if you forget about them, they may.
Isn't it important, really, that voter education, it starts as early as possible?
Yeah, I was coming to that. Thank you. Now, on voter education, you are right. You are correct that the Electoral Commission is required by law to conduct voter education. All these processes are within our roadmap. All we are waiting is for us to be availed the funds, and then we go out and ensure that we carry out as much voter education as possible. And by the way, let me tell you, Patrick, we have come to realize, one, that many of our people are ignorant about the electoral laws and electoral processes in this country. It is our duty as Electoral Commission to sensitize the people, because an informed citizenry, informed voters, make our work a lot easier. They make our work a lot easier. So, on the issue of voter education, I can assure you the Commission is committed and determined to go out and carry out this voter education, provided we have the resources.
But can you have an effective voter education when there has not been any civic education, which is not your mandate, I understand, because that's the Human Rights Commission.
Yes.
And if there hasn't been a robust civic education, can you have meaningful voter education? Because I think they feed into each other.
Yeah, they do. Actually, at times it's a thin line, to be precise. At times it's a thin line. But recently, I think the National Civic Education Initiative was launched, which is a body aimed or tasked with ensuring that civic education is carried out by the relevant organs or stakeholders under that umbrella. So on the issue of civic education, yes, we realize that there is a gap in that area, and I think efforts are being made to ensure civic education is being conducted by the necessary organs, and the Electoral Commission also comes in and does its work as well in the area of voter education. It is very imperative. It is imperative that we voter educate our people. It's very imperative.
And this is when is this supposed to start?
In my view, Patrick,
or maybe you don't have partners.
In my view, Patrick, voter education should be a continuous process. In fact, in the view of the Electoral Commission, proper, effective, and meaningful voter education is that outside the electoral cycle.
So you're behind your schedule?
No, we are not behind the schedule. We are not behind the schedule. Remember, the campaigns have not yet started officially. The candidates, or those who we don't have candidates as yet. Those who are aspiring to contest in 2021 are already exploring the ground, but we are saying those are not official campaigns of the Commission.
I'm saying this, my lord, because you have said it should also be outside the election cycle. And we're just on the margin of the election cycle.
Ideally.
Yeah, we are on the margin of the election cycle.
Yes.
So, and you haven't done that.
Yes, and I'm saying that the moment finance releases to us the first tranche of the funds, we are going to ensure that we roll out civic education
From
program.
the word go, you've been talking about stakeholder engagement. You know, people to do their part. And every time I ask about these things that are not done, you say money has not been given. Maybe finance minister has not done ABCD. Are you having a wobbly partner in the Ministry of Finance,
no,
in the government of Uganda?
Not at all. Otherwise, we wouldn't be operating as we're operating now. There may be certain challenges, but we're operating. Actually, even on the issue of civic education, we've been carrying out civic education in some areas, particularly in institutions, academic institutions.
Are you
like
also
schools.
now doing civic education?
No, like voter education, voter education. We're carrying out voter education, for example, in schools, in areas which we can easily access or reach without necessarily requiring much cost, okay? Schools which are nearby and so on and so forth. So we are doing that. Now, on the issue of, I don't want to say that we have a wobbly pattern, but you know, government has several commitments, and one of the commitments they have is to ensure that the Electoral Commission is funded adequately and timely to carry out its activities. I want to assure you we're going to carry out these activities.
You know, in the by-elections which you have held in the last couple of months or even years, I think the chairman of the NRM, the president of Uganda, said in some by-elections that the Electoral Commission was biased. In Arua, I think in Bugiri. And when those statements were made, we saw almost you
doing what?
In Shema, things went different. So wondering, was that a scare? Was it real? Were you?
No, as you said, of course, the president is the chairman of one of the main parties in the country. Like any
but I think I heard that statement.
Yes, like any other leader of a political party, he also expresses his views and concerns about some processes. And other political parties have also been expressing their concerns, by the way. Now, what we do as Electoral Commission, we examine the areas that are complained or where complaints have been raised and see whether there is anything that could have gone probably wrong or that was not done right, and we put measures in place to correct them. For example,
when a statement is made by the appointing authority, who is the fountain of honor, and is doubting your processes, that says a lot.
No, I don't think that amounts to doubting. He's only saying, look, there are issues here. There are issues here. When you find your wife at home has not done something right and you point it out, are you doubting her wifelyhood? No. You are just saying, but darling, something is not right here. Can we put it right? That is all. So I think when these issues are raised, it is a call to the Electoral Commission to examine its processes and see where to put remedial measures and correct those issues. And I think we have done that. We have done that. And indeed, as you said, one of the issues that we had, for example, in Arua, you know, the famous Arua fracas. Our next election was in Shema. We took lessons from Arua. When we went to Shema, we engaged with the local leaders, the LC1 chairpersons, and we said, please, we don't want what happened in Arua to happen in Shema here.
Do you know how that was understood to mean? That the people who won in Arua should not be winning in Shema?
No, that's not true.
But that's what
there was violence. We are talking of the violence that took place in Arua.
Well, you know,
so we engaged with the leaders.
My producer put this discussion in the Daily Monitor. So I've been getting also some views.
Yes.
Because you are a person of high name recognition and repute, and the job you are carrying for Uganda is very delicate.
Absolutely.
So I'm giving you some of the things I'm hearing. That, you know, Simon Biabakama, when things were hard in Arua, he made some promises and make sure he had to make good on those promises. I'm not saying I believe them, but I'm saying some of these things. This is why you have a platform like this, so that for on behalf of those, I can be able to hear.
You know, in law we have a saying that who alleges must prove. I think those people are alleging that I made some promises must prove what promises I made, so that Shema things stand out. But on a serious note, on the issue of violence,
yes,
when we went to Shema, we said we cannot have this ugly thing keep rearing its head in the midst of our democratic processes. The leaders of this area, can you say no? Can you please be on alert and look out for any person who is trying to perpetrate this kind of conduct? And the people said absolutely. And it was peaceful in Shema.
So when you are managing these elections and then violence happens, for example, Kayua shot dead, seated in a vehicle of his master in Arua. And then somebody in Bugiri, somebody's husband or somebody's son, shot dead. And then a fellow journalist on the streets of Kampala, clobbered in front of international television cameras. And nobody shows any remorse. Do you know what you're up against?
Patrick, I want to be on record. The Electoral Commission condemns and did condemn those episodes, because violence has no room in an electoral process. Elections are supposed to be peaceful. They are supposed to be an exchange of views and ideas, the candidates marketing themselves, and the voters making a choice of whom to go with or whom not to go with. So violence is reprehensible, deplorable, and not condone. You cannot condone that. So in all these instances, we did condemn those acts, and indeed that's why we have taken steps now to ensure. And even this roadmap, one of the major focus is on how do we prevent the occurrence of violence in our elections. We do not have to spill blood. For goodness sake, the determinant of who is a more powerful candidate is at the polling station in the ballot box, not in how many heads have been crushed or how many liters of blood have been shed, not at all. So, but you see, that requires a concerted effort of all Ugandans, of all of us who love this country, who want to see our children grow in a stable environment. And for those of us who reach retirement, we retire in an environment where we can enjoy ourselves in the evening of our years. We must work collectively together, and that's why we are now co-opting the media in this endeavor. We are going to engage with the political parties and other political actors in this endeavor. We are going to engage with the religious leaders in this endeavor. We are going to engage with them, even security. We are going to conduct workshops with the security, because the media have raised that issue I pointed out of a media person being battered and so on and so forth. We are going to conduct joint workshops or training programs so that the media can raise issues of concern to the security, and the security can also respond. Because at the end of the day, we all belong to this country called Uganda.
Now, is it your conviction that some of these things are happening because those who are doing them do not know, or they just don't care?
Whichever. But what we are saying, they should not happen.
Is it your conviction that these things are done because, like Jesus said, please forgive them because they don't know what they are doing?
Absolutely. You know, Jesus was betrayed by one of the 12, wasn't he? Was betrayed by So what we are saying is that much as...
So you want to sensitize them?
Yes.
And in that manner, you think some of these things will not happen. You think they are doing them ignorantly?
Deliberately or ignorantly, whichever, but we are saying those are reprehensible acts. We don't want them.
Majority are saying these are acts of impunity done deliberately.
By who?
If somebody is clobbered
Yes.
on the streets of Kampala
Yes.
in broad daylight,
Yes.
when he has nothing, when you can actually be subdued without beating him, then there's no way how you can say that was an act of somebody who's ignorant or doesn't know what they are doing. They're specific, they're intentional. That's what most analysts have been able to see and say. But I want to move away from that issue because I suppose some of those members in the uniform have also been dealt with by those who are responsible.
Yeah, sure.
There have been allegations of numerous multiple registration. And that because Uganda's is a very magnanimous country and we have received so many of our brothers and sisters across the region because they are running away from conflicts and they are here, millions of refugees, that even them, their names have even been put on the register. I don't know how you respond to that.
First of all, the powers, the duty of registering citizens and aliens lies with the National Identification Registration Authority, NIRA. The Electoral Commission only registers voters. Now, one of the criteria for you to become a voter or to be eligible as a voter is you must be a citizen of Uganda and you must be 18 years and above. Okay? Now, the current framework is that we use NIRA's data to determine who is a citizen and whether that person should be put on the National Voters Register.
And is that verifiable?
We have...
Is that verifiable?
Yes, we understand NIRA has a system in place of verifying whether Patrick Kamara, who is applying to be registered as a citizen, is a citizen or not. And that verification starts from the ground where this applicant is a resident or says he was born or stays. So there is that verification process. We only hope that verification process is credible and is not tainted with this common ill of corruption and so on and so forth. So, but we are mindful of that concern. We are mindful of that concern.
One other issue that I thought maybe I could remind you is that the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, he's said on the occasion of 2006, 2011, 2016, that our elections are riddled with bribery, intimidation, and other forms of malpractice. But even on those occasions, they fell short of nullifying the results.
Yes.
What watertight mechanisms are you putting in place to deal with such concerns?
I don't know whether you can apply, you have any such kind of watertight mechanism for human behavior. I don't think so. But you can only try to mitigate on some of those instances. And as I've said, one of the things, insofar as some of these instances tend to soil our elections, one of the ways is to try as much as possible to sensitize the people, to sensitize the citizens, to identify the wrongdoers in their midst and say no by reporting them to the relevant authorities so that they are dealt with according to the law. That's what we need to do. But you see, if no action is done, if we do not come up and try to address these issues, then they keep occurring and occurring and occurring.
We were going for 2021 elections, but the people in Kampala and the surrounding areas will be remembering what happened in 2016. In fact, surrounding areas of Kampala could not be able even to vote when Karamoja had already finished voting. Karamoja is the farthest point in the northeast of our country. I'm told actually even in Gaba, people have never voted even up to today.
I'm not aware about that.
Well, but you know, you are head of an institution that was criticized so much for what it did in 2016 or failed to do. And some of them perhaps are the same colleagues you're working with and they're continuing with the institutional memory of the same. Well, so how do you ensure?
Well, what happened in some areas of Kampala and Wakiso was regrettable. And I think the Commission has owned up to that. what we have done is to take the necessary steps and ensure that there is no reoccurrence of that kind of episodes. So I want to assure the people of Kampala that in 2021, we do not expect to see that kind of thing happening again. It was unfortunate, it was regrettable, it was not deliberate. The point I want to make to emphasize that it was not intentional or deliberate. It was just like any other human systems. You set everything in motion, you plan everything well, just one slight mishap distorts the whole picture.
In the opposition stronghold?
I do not know what criteria the people who make that kind of contention or claim have to say this was opposition stronghold. I don't know. Maybe they know. But what I know, it was not the whole of Kampala. It was in a few select areas. So I do not know whether the Electoral Commission could go out of its way to determine that at this polling station, in this area, this is an opposition stronghold. If it was across the entire Kampala city, maybe that would be different. But only few areas, I'm not saying that, I'm not downplaying what happened, but we are saying it was not deliberate on the basis that this was an opposition stronghold. It was not deliberate.
My Lord Justice Simon Byabakama, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, I'll be able to open the lines. You'll see the numbers on the screen so that you can call and ask the question that you may be having. Should you disagree with Justice Simon Byabakama, you should be able to show respect, especially when you disagree. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Justice Simon Byabakama, head of the Electoral Commission, and we are discussing the roadmap to 2021. I just want now to look into in-house, because is Justice Simon Byabakama going to be the man who will eventually move the Electoral Commission offices from a wetland down into down in a warehouse?
We call it the swamp.
Well, it is. Because the places are just next to you, they have not been allowed even to put permanent structures because they say it's a wetland. What are the plans to have really something that is better than what you already have, even though that has delivered something? But I suppose you deserve better, don't you?
Yeah, sure. We embarked on the process of moving out of that place by, first of all, acquiring suitable premises, because there's no time for us to acquire land and build. So we have to acquire property that is already in existence that satisfies our requirements. But as you know, procurement issues, there are a number of complaints to PPDA and so on, back and forth. But the process is on. The process of acquiring a home is on.
Have you already identified the premise?
Well, as I said, it's a procurement process, and the process is not yet concluded. Had not been concluded when complaints and petitions were made to PPDA, which is okay within the law, and so the process is now a bit stalled because of that. I'm
going to be opening the lines. Let me engage Ugandans already trying to get. Hello. Oh, sorry. You could call us again. The numbers are on the screen. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and please make it very precise so that we can have as many people as possible. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Good evening, sir. You are loud and clear. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what? I'm sorry?
Calling from Lina.
Okay. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes. Barije calling from Rida. Yes, thank you very much, Patrick Kamara and Justice Byabakama. My question to Justice is one that our people from diaspora do not vote. What is the plan that he has about those people who stay outside Uganda?
Thank you very much. Your question was very precise. Ugandans in diaspora need to take part in the democratic process of choosing their leaders in Uganda. Justice Simon Byabakama will be responding shortly. Let me take another caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Moses. I'm calling from Soroti.
Moses in Soroti, you're on air, please. Ask your question.
Yes. I have two issues.
Okay.
One on petition.
Okay.
It is the Electoral Commission officials who verify the papers after they left, verifying the papers of candidates, and then the candidates are registered by Electoral Commission. Then the petitions come after the election. Why is that rampant? Then the two,
okay,
the issue of buying voters. I think the Electoral Commission should take this charge. They should take this one as a responsibility and put the spies so that we stop all these issues, because it is breaking the law.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think those are three questions that Justice Simon Byabakama has. Let me take two more, and then he will respond to those questions. I have a call online. Hello. Hello. Okay. I think I'll have to drop that line and pick another, and then we shall maybe take only four. I have a caller online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening to you.
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from, sir?
I'm Asaba Editor from Najanankumbi.
Asaba in Najanankumbi.
Asaba Editor from Najanankumbi.
Okay, your line is not the best, but maybe let's try to hear what you're saying.
I want to appreciate and thank Justice Byabakama Simon.
Unfortunately, we cannot have a healthy conversation with you because the line is rather not okay, and apologies for that. Let me try to take another caller. Hello. Okay, I suppose we could, my producer tells me I can just try to take one more caller. I do have one who's been waiting. Hello. Hello. Okay. Hello. Justice Simon Byabakama, you have three questions to respond to.
Yeah, sure.
Please do.
Yeah, people in the diaspora.
Yes.
Well, the current legal framework provides that for you to qualify as a voter, one, you must be a citizen. Two, over 18 years of age. Three, you must be a resident or a born of the area within the country. A resident of the area, or you are born in that area, your place of origin. So diaspora, we do not have that within the current legal framework. Maybe that is one area which requires a review or reform in that regard, so that people in the diaspora are also permitted to participate in our elections here in the country. Now, on the issue of verification of candidates' papers, it is true that on the day of nomination, every candidate presents his or her credentials pertaining to his identification and also academic qualification. However, there are some instances where one's academic papers have to be vetted or verified by the National Council for Higher Education,
Yes.
who issue a certificate of compliance or something like that. Now, in some instances, people have gone to court and challenged the candidature of some of these people who win elections on the basis that their papers were not appropriate. Now, we also intend to engage with the National Council for Higher Education to see whether there are gaps in the system of vetting these papers, which at times are quashed by the courts of law.
So what I just wanted to ask, is it the candidates who have to bring you the certification or the verification?
Yes.
They have to come with the signed paper?
Yeah, because they have to.
But then why don't you, as Electoral Commission, have the names of the people who are the contenders, and you go these names into the National Council of Higher Education and do the verification instead of waiting for them to bring you a stamped and signed paper?
No, the law says that you must present either the A-level certificate or its equivalent.
Yeah.
And that equivalence is only ascertained or verified by the National Council for Education.
And true.
The issue is not what is presented from National Council of Education is a forgery or anything. No, it is the papers themselves which constitute the equivalent, which at times have question marks about them. So it's not, and really, the Electoral Commission does not have the mandate or the capacity to go to lift the veil, as we say, and say, no, even though we have received this certificate from National Council for Education, we are still not satisfied. No, doesn't provide for that. But working again, as I said, working together with the National Council for Education, we can address some of these challenges. Okay? Now, the other issue...
The one maybe other issue is that if you have 10 candidates who have come to you with their papers, isn't it better, you as the Electoral Commission, to say, I have these 10 people, and you have your officials to go and verify their papers, instead of them coming with the verification?
And another thing I want to point out is this. When a candidate has presented his or her nomination papers, the law says that they shall be open to public scrutiny. So you or any person can come up, look at these papers, and say, but we studied with this person in this school. How can he now present papers of A-level or O-level, indicating that he studied in this school? We are with him in this school or with her in this school? No, there's an issue here. The Electoral Commission does not have the capacity and the time to go and re-verify each end of these papers from the academic institutions where these papers are said to have been obtained from.
So I think the caller wanted to know what causes for you to give them a green light, and at the end of the day, maybe the results are nullified, and when they look back, probably you did not do your job well to ascertain that ABC provided what he claimed he had.
You see, the point I'm making is this. Nomination. Normally it is 2 days, parliamentary and even presidential. You present your papers to the returning officer, all right? And the other candidates also do the same. Now, what follows next is that come and look at these papers. Do you have any issues with them? If you don't come forward, the Electoral Commission is safe to presume that there are no issues with this person's papers.
Okay. Let's go to the next question.
Now, the next question was, did I hear this caller correctly? Who identifies voters? Was it to do with the voter identification or something? The last question from Soroti, I don't remember. I didn't get it appropriately.
Okay.
I think it is voter identification. One, when we are preparing the National Voters Register, one of the things that we do is what we call display the register for a period at every parish. Now, it is the duty of every voter, every individual in that given parish to go and look at the register and say, but this Kamara, we don't know this Kamara. Where is he from? He's not in our area. But this Kamara, he died. What is he still doing on this register? But this Kamara, he's a Congolese. For all we know, he's a non-Ugandan or from this nation who is not Ugandan. What is he doing on the national voters? That is the purpose of the display. And once you point out that this person should not be on the National Voters Register, there is a tribunal in place to whom all these issues are brought. And they...
Okay.
Yes.
There's a question I've been thinking, and with all respect, I think I should also ask you.
Yes.
Quite a number of people, when you were appointed chairperson of the Electoral Commission, looked back at your background, and they seem to have suggested that you are a cadre of the NRM.
First of all, I'm not a cadre of any political party. I'm a cadre of the law. My background is in the field of the law. I studied law. I worked as a prosecutor for 27 years. I worked as a judge for 6 to 7 years. Now, so my entire line has been
Actually, it is in your job as a prosecutor when you had to carry a case involving one of the former presidential candidates that many claim was full of forgery.
Do you know that in my entire career of 27 years, I prosecuted hundreds of cases, not only one case, incidentally. And you know, there are also a number of people I prosecuted who are currently in the government, but I don't want to mention names, of course. But the point I'm trying to make is that I was doing it as a duty, as a prosecutor, just like any other person who do that duty.
All right. Well, your predecessors who have been in that office, I think Honorable Kasuja, an engineer who just left the other day, almost whoever sits in that office is like a poisoned chalice. How are you going to ensure that my Lord Justice Simon Byabakama goes through without damaging them yourself?
I think every human activity is a challenge. It has its own challenges pertaining to the peculiar environment of the place. In my view, the work of the Electoral Commission, as I said right from the beginning, is governed by the law. Secondly, it's about perceptions. In politics, you always have people having different views, different perceptions at anything, or on anything. I think the point for you as a manager of elections, one, is to reach out to as many as possible stakeholders. Be transparent, be open, show them why you are doing and why you are doing at that time. That informs the essence of rolling out the roadmap early in time, so that every actor, every political party, every intending or aspiring candidate should have no quorums, should have no excuses that, but we were not aware about that process. The Electoral Commission, how have you come about that? So to me, be transparent, be engaging, be welcoming, and we welcome all political parties to come to our offices. If they have issues with us, come and raise them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My Lord Justice Simon Byabakama,
thank you
very much
Patrick.
for having honored our invitation.
All right.
We appreciate your insights on the matter. We're looking forward to giving us a credible election come 2021 and other elections that may be coming. And thank you very much for being part of this show. Good night and God bless Uganda.
Thank you. I'm on.